So please, please, please slow down. And I'll say this also, by the way, in that no one is telling you not to drink or not to consume alcohol. I think they should be, but they're not doing that. What they're saying to you is that if you're going to imbibe, as it were, then please, please, please be sensible, be responsible, and get somebody else to drive. And don't think that, oh, I've only had 1 or 2 drinks, therefore I'm okay. No, you're not. And the tragedy also is, if you are driving along under the influence, somebody else is doing what they're doing properly, and you strike them, you're causing undue injury to those persons who, through no fault of their own, find themselves in that instance. So please, 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 slow down. And if you are going to be going out drinking or otherwise, then please, 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 before you leave home, make sure you have a designated driver, or don't take a vehicle yourself and then catch a taxi or otherwise. And you may do that, for example, because I know that there are those in the transport industry. Don't be so under the influence that you get in the car and vomit up. I will say that word, vomit. It's disgusting, right? So let's not do that, because then it means that their taxi or vehicle is ruined for the evening. They have to go get it cleaned, and you're not going to pay the $200 price that's going to cost to get it cleaned up. And everybody knows how nasty it is, to, for example, to get in a car, and if it's a cloth seat, it's wet. It stinks. It doesn't smell nice at all. And so it's just not nice. And so, yes, people may complain, but listen, let's be sensible. Let's make sure that everyone that is around now is able to get through the holiday season and not cause any undue damage to other people or to property or otherwise. Okay, so that's my spiel for tonight. I'll probably say the same thing. And also, on a very, very happy note, this year I'm going to do the 2nd annual Insight Anthony Richardson Turkey Marathon. What that means is that I'm going to choose a day, and every hour, on the hour, someone's going to call me and I'm going to give them a turkey. So it's going to be 24 turkeys. And I'll decide by the end of the show tonight, by the way, which day it's going to be. I'm either going to start it on Wednesday at 9 a.m. or Thursday at 9 a.m. I'm just going to think that thing through, and I'll decide by the end of the show. And then that way, all you have to do is call me on the hour, every hour for 24 hours. I'll answer the phone myself, take your name and contact information. And if you call and I don't answer, it's because someone else has already called. So I have this wonderful thing now on my phone, right? It's going to be on. When I answer the press person, I'm going to turn it off. So I'm not going to hear the ringer. So you can call me, but that's going to be the plan. And those who participated last year, they know it's a fun thing, because then what I get to do is come and deliver the turkeys. And it's a nice time, to be honest. It's a festive time. And we'll be surprised at how much a turkey does make the holiday for many people. And so that's going to be the goal. And again, I'll mention the exact day before we end the show tonight. And I'm also going to have one show next week. I was going to stop earlier, let this be the last show, but guess what? I'm going to have a show next week because there is a person. I'm going to get the correct information first. There's a person that asked me, they're doing a very good deed on behalf of young people. And I asked them when can they come on board, and they told me they can only come next week, which is going to be the 21st. And let me read the blurb that they gave me, which is going to be, it's called Next Gen Medical Mission Statement: to unite Bermudian student doctors and early career physicians through mentorship, collaboration, and shared experience, fostering a strong medical community that supports one another, uplifts the next generation, and inspires youth across the island to pursue careers in medicine and healthcare. How could I say no? Focus areas are mentorship, education, and outreach. Guess what? Who's the person that's going to do that? None other than my daughter, Jordan Richardson, a student physician, and her good friend, Miss Delia Eben. And so I could not say no. They're only going to be here during the Christmas season, so I couldn't say no. And again, so next week we're going to have that discussion with them. 2 young people, both aspiring physicians. They're both in school now, and so that's going to be what we're going to be doing next week. Now, for today, I have 2 beautiful people smiling at me. I can say that without being offensive. And we're going to be talking tonight. I coined it Written Legacy. Written Legacy, and the guests this evening are Miss Rashima Swan and Miss, I should say, I'm going to say Miss for both of you, right? So Miss Rashima Swan and Miss Letitia Washington. A wonderful opportunity. And I told them before I came on air that in preparing for the show today, I had the book. I attended the lounge, which would have been about 3 weeks ago?
A month
ago, already.
Well,
a month ago already.
In mid-November.
In mid-November. And that was the launch of Black Pearls, and the subtitle is Grace, Power, and the Art of Becoming. And when I read it, and when I was thinking about today, I actually said to myself, Anthony, be mindful, because you're opening up what is a can of worms. As I said to you before we came on air, it's almost like for some persons, right, there was a sword there, and the scab is over it. And tonight may take the scab off, which means there's greater exposure, and to be mindful of that. And so we're just mindful, and we are sensitive to the issues that may arise. But I think it's important to have the conversation because, as I said, there are more and more people writing books, and I think it's going to be interesting to go through the process to understand how this works. And so we always start by having you introduce yourselves, and then we'll go from there. And so as you smile, both of you smile so brightly, one of you go first and just introduce yourselves in a way that you want to be introduced, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, good evening. Good evening to you, Mr. Richardson, and your listening audience and your viewing audience.
Yes, that's right. We're all on Facebook Live.
Good evening to family, friends, and just members of the wider community. My name is Rishima Swan. I am a mother of one, Bakari. And Bakari, I hope you're listening. He just came home from university for the Christmas holiday. By trade, I am an educator. I am a school principal. I am the principal at the Whitney Institute Middle School, the best middle school on the island. I have a wonderful family. I do have brothers, I have sisters, I have my mom, my dad. I was just thinking as I drove here how I have, still one living grandparent. And I'm just thankful. I'm thankful for life, health, and strength. I'm thankful for the invitation. So thank you for inviting me. And I'm looking forward to this evening's conversation and thankful that, Mrs. Letitia is here alongside me.
Okay, and I'll smile by just saying this, that for those that know Miss Rashima Swan, her comment was, how will we get to this 2 hours? And I said, well, guess what? I'll ask one question, and she can talk the whole night. So let's see. Those of us who know her will smile because she's one of those that sends, I think, a record length of voice notes. Not a 30-second voice note. No. Rashima sent like a 5-minute voice note and think it's okay. But anyway. So Miss Letitia, my cousin.
Yes. So good evening, everyone. Good evening, listening and viewing audience. As has been established, my name is Letitia Washington. To follow the protocol that has already been established, I am also a mother. I have 3 children. The oldest is 26.
Wow.
Then I get on to 17 and 13.
Okay.
I work at Mirrors, so shout out to my Mirrors family. I think they are tuning in. So that's Kim Jackson, Jillian Woods, Nelson Bascom, the one Miss Stephanie Lee, and Janae Edness. That's everybody, but that's where I work. I'm the prevention services coordinator, so I work with young people, very similar to Miss Rashima. In addition to that, I am here in the capacity of, I'm the owner also of Word World Publishing. I started off as a best-selling author. My genre was romance. I have published, I want to say 21 novels, 21 novels and novellas. 5 of them hit best-selling status. And Word World was born because people were asking me how I did it. And so I began to kind of show and mentor people, and that's how Word World happened. Now Brooklyn has retired, and I spend most of my time in publishing, so working with local authors to tell their stories. And as you mentioned, many people are now wanting to tell and share their stories. So it's very important. And so I'm also very excited to get into this conversation.
Okay, the second.
And just because you mentioned to the listening audience about the voice notes, why are people hitting me up on the side with emojis of cracking up? So let's keep those kinds of things under wraps,
No
Mr.
problem.
Richardson, okay?
No problem. We're just making sure that the sound is okay, and I think we're now good to go. The worst. Okay, so let's start in terms of the inspiration behind the book, and then we go from there, please. The name, the inspiration, all those kind of things.
Okay, the inspiration, hey, the genesis. Where did all of this come from? I would venture to say I was actually at home, and I was on leave. I had 2 bouts of on leave, and one of the things, as you know, being an educator, it's very busy, very time consuming. It's labor intensive, and it's service. It's service and servitude. And I'm not going to say oftentimes, all of the time, at least I can speak for myself. It's about giving, giving, giving. And I realized when I had those moments of not being at work and having the opportunity to actually chillax, reflect, be a bit more introspective, that I really came to the conclusion that I don't do anything for myself. You know, I wake up, I go to work, I give my best, I come home, I reflect, go to sleep, wake up, go to work, do my best, reflect, come home, go to sleep. And I would venture to say that was just the routine. And it was like, what are you doing for you? And when I really started to think and ponder, I realized I don't do much, not much. And so I then began to question myself, because there was this question posed, what do you do for you? And I wasn't satisfied with the answers that I was getting. Really, there were no answers. And then there came the challenge. Well, I do believe that it's time that you start doing for you. And then what did that look like? Because again, it's one thing to recognize or to identify that, okay, you don't do much for yourself and you do a heck of a lot for everybody else and everybody else's children. And I don't grumble about that. It's just my career, and it was a career choice, and that's who I am. But I began to realize that I needed to live a more balanced life. But in order to do that, I had to find out who I was. And as cliche as that may sound, that was, I would say, the genesis. Who are you? And when I started to think about the things that I enjoy, one of the things that came to my mind was my love for English. I am a high school English teacher, and I love English language. I love English literature. And, I have 2 degrees in that content, as well as obviously my teaching degree and my supervision and administration degrees. But really, my love is English. And I started thinking, and I'm like, well, when is the last time that you actually read for pleasure? And it's been a while. I would have to say, I'm not going to say that I haven't read anything, because I have, obviously the nature of my job entitles that I do have to read. But I mean, when I really sat down, I asked myself, when was the last time you really sat down or laid down under the covers, snuggled up with a hot, cup of hot chocolate, where I'm serious. And then I was thinking of these things, and I'm like, boy, that feels like, it felt like Neverary.
Okay.
In my world. And so then I think the seeds then were planted. And I was thinking about my life. Because, of course, when you start asking yourself, who are you? What makes you happy? What are the things that you enjoy? What are the things that you don't enjoy? What are the things that you'd like to do more of? Well, I started thinking of myself, and I started thinking of my life. And I said, well, you know what? I know that I want to write. And I knew that I had that within me, but I just never did it. Why? Because I never made the time. Or rather, in my mind, I thought I didn't have the time. So once I didn't have to go to work, it was like, well, okay, what's your excuse? Because now you have the time. You're not going to work. And I would say that was probably the breeding ground. And that was a good time actually to be out, because I learned that I really do have a green thumb and not a black thumb. Like I can keep a plant. I had a garden. I was growing produce. Oh, yes, I know, you don't know that. From the yellow onions, the red onions, the beets, the carrots, the kale, the purple kale, the peppers. I had it going on, and I was like, oh my word, like I really can do these things, because I didn't actually think that I had it in me. I would normally have a plant and it'll be dead within 4 days. But again, this was part of the challenge to, I guess, learn a little bit more and give myself an opportunity to grow in some ways that I hadn't at that time. And so I was doing the gardening in the morning, and then during my afternoons, then I actually just started just jotting down thoughts. And so I would say, and therein was the beginning. I worked on just thoughts. It wasn't a script. It wasn't a manuscript. It was thoughts. And then after a while, being an English teacher, I'm like, well, okay, well, what is the point of this? Like, what kind of genre, what area are you going to go into? Because once you start writing one thing, a second thing, I'm like, okay, which direction are you trying to take yourself into? So I then had to step back and I had to think, well, And then I was like, well, what am I writing for? And we teach that in school. I'm like, okay, I'm writing for informational reasons. And I started saying, okay, well, let's do that. So I was just doing different vignettes, different stories. And I felt that, I think that was where I was at, where I can actually write about something for a certain amount of time, a certain amount of words. I was giving myself probably like maybe 200, 250 words. And I'm like, and then that was it. That was the end. And then on to the next story, on to the next vignette. And it pretty much emanated from a memoir stance, writing about me, writing about myself. And then it expanded. So I know that some people who have read certain excerpts, they're like, oh my gracious, that was you? I don't remember that. And I'm like, well, no, you wouldn't remember because that wasn't me. However, all of the stories in the book are true. So some historical fiction, some, I would say, a bit of autobiographical. But when you also write for entertainment, you do have the license, I would say, to actually, to either add some things, change around some things, because you want to get the reader's attention.
It's called creative license.
There we go. Okay. Yes. And so for me, once I started putting things together, it was easier for me to write from first person. Because initially it was each individual story. And so there are like 32 stories. And it would have been from a different point of view, a different character. But for me, I found that to be a bit challenging, especially, I guess, coming out of the woodwork. And so I said, you know what would be easier for me? And I said, you know what, I'm going to take on the persona. So there are things in the book, yes, that have directly been a result of, yes, my life, my experiences. And then there are some things in the book that have indirectly impacted me and affected my life. But taking on the persona of first person made it very much easy. And then I actually was able to get into it a bit more too, because then I became the individual, no matter what, whether it was about me or whether I was writing through someone else's voice. It was a lot easier for me to just write in first person.
Okay. And that's a question I had, to be honest, because let me just give a little spiel I want to say, and that is that when reading, first of all, it was you, right? Mm-hmm. When I started to read it, it was almost like each chapter would be a taste, but not the full detail. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know you that well, right? Mm-hmm. And so some of those things was, okay, fine, obviously you have a son, okay, cool, you have a son, got that. And then there were a couple other things whereby it's almost like it's a story whereby you get the start of it, not too much gossip, and then you end with a good vignette, I want to call it, in terms of how you're trying to inspire women, or giving women something to do, or something like a concrete outcome of that. Yes. And so for those that want to get gossip, it's not a gossip book.
No.
But it does, I guess my question is, explain a little bit more about how you would write it as if it's you, but it's not you. Because I think that was part of the interest in even reading it.
Well, as you noted, no, it's definitely not a gossip tabloid product. And I'm also mindful that, we're living in Bermuda, which is a very small community. And a lot of times it's, I would say, normal for someone, yes, to pick up something, especially if it's informational text, even though is to maybe persuade or entertain, you will naturally ask questions like, who is this?
Right.
Who's just talking about? And that's normal. It's natural. And I knew that. And so I was also making sure that I was being respectful, with the content, and respectful, first of all, of myself. Okay. Respectful of myself, respectful of any, I guess, presumed or inferred individuals. And as you stated, it wasn't about trying to get to the salient, juicy details, but the lesson learned. So you are absolutely right when you hit the nail on the head. It wasn't to be another 50 Shades of Grey. It wasn't supposed to be salacious, and mouth-watering in that regard, but to give a taste. Each chapter does have a particular word and a word of empowerment with an accompanying quote, and then enough to give you a backdrop of how that word fits in and aligns with the actual chapter, and then ending with a call to action.
Okay. And so I guess the question would be, is that based upon you, the educator, you, the experienced English teacher? Because for either of you, actually, the question would be, how would somebody else be able to do the exact same thing or have that same sense to write a good book?
Well, I'll speak for myself and then turn it over to Letitia, but I would say yes, part of that was that because I write, and being an English major at the higher level, that's just something that just comes natural. So when it comes to different perspectives, but that's part of the degree. That's part of what you do. So, I actually have an English degree. And so that was also part of, I would say, my educational background, my training. So for me, it wasn't difficult to shift. It would have been easy to just write different chapters. But for me, for the fluidity, I wanted it to be fluid. I wanted it to flow. And I made the decision that it would flow a bit easier if it was all from a first-person lens, as if, I was the person in each chapter. No, I'm not the person in each chapter. However, it's a flow because guess what? Everybody who's read it thinks that I am. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point. That's the effect that you want to have on your reader. That when they read, it flows. And not that your chops and change. And so I would say that probably was a plus and a benefit for me. Letitia obviously has dealt with lots of other authors, and I guess I'll kick that over to her.
Yeah, and to the listening audience also, Letitia has said to us that she's going to be here for an hour, and then she thinks she's going to leave, so we will see how that works out at any event. Because interesting, though, that if you answer that question first in terms of how people write, then it'll come back to your writing, because as you said, you've written, like, how many you've written
over 20,
over 20, right? And several of them have been bestsellers. So let's talk a little bit about you, the publisher. Well, first of all, let's answer the question about how people write.
Yes. So similar to what Rishima said, there is a level of skill. There's also a level of talent, natural talent that comes. I think to myself, one of the questions I'm always asked was, well, how did you start writing, or when did you write your first book? I literally remember being in primary 2 and writing a story, stapling the edges, going to my primary and look at my book. And it was about a blue elephant. I was 6? Writing from 6 up until I decided to publish. It blew up. There's a level of talent, gift that's associated with it. However, it's not to say that persons can't build the muscle, but that requires studying, because there are tips and techniques. So when I get authors that want author coaching, which is a service I provide, I teach them things like show, don't tell. One of my mantras is grip them by the throat. In other words, when I open your book, I literally give you 5 pages to grip me by the throat. If by page 5 and a half,
because I'm the grip by it.
you need to engage me immediately. Because I will close your book and get the next one. And so I teach people the techniques for when you start the book, it must be engaging. You don't wait until page 50. I've closed the book. So all of that to say there are strategies, and a word that I've been throwing around, gimmicks, that you use as a writer to engage audiences and to lock them in. So it's a muscle that can be strengthened, but we have to acknowledge that there's a level of training that comes with it, but there's also a gift, I believe.
And so Anthony is not a writer at all. I decided I'm going to write a book, right? So how long, or what's the process by which I engage you or somebody else, I suppose, to get some basic structure around writing a book?
That's a great question. I actually had an author, a will-be author, they will be, same question. So what I provided them with, a timeline. My first question to authors is, what's the release date? because we're talking about this book. When is it going to be on the shelf? That
Okay.
gives me a deadline because now I can build your writing schedule. I can tell you now, because I know you want to publish in December 2026, you need to write 500 words a day if you're going to have a 300-page book.
Wow.
So I'll pull out my calculator, I'll start to design and give them targets that they must hit in order to achieve their goal. So that's how I would begin the conversation.
And what's a reasonable time frame? Like, say, let's say Anthony was to write a book today.
Yes.
What's a reasonable time frame to try to get something done without being unrealistic for a brand new first-time author?
Sure. So again, it's the assessment of how well do you write. Anybody can publish a book. Whether or not it's good, that's the question that is up for debate.
Right.
Right. Now, if you're coming to Brooklyn Night, if you're coming to Word World, and okay, so let me pull back a bit. In the beginning, a lot of people used to assume that because I had hit bestseller, that they would as well. No.
Okay.
Meaning, all because I have to know how well you write. So you can come to me and say, I want to write a book,
Yes.
but I need to do an assessment to see how well you write. If it's poorly written, it's going to take you longer to write a book. You know what I mean?
So how do you assess my writing ability?
So I do manuscript assessments, send me 10 pages, and I rip it up. I critique it, and I no holds barred because you're paying me. So I will give you the feedback that you're looking for. I also have beta readers on my team. These are people who will read your book. You have no idea who they are. They don't know you, and they will tell you the truth. Your mother will say, this is amazing. My beta readers will tell you this is not.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this is what we want. If you want to be a really good author, this is the type of stuff that we want. So all of that, to answer the question, it really depends on your writing level, your skill, what's the genre, who's your audience. There are so many questions that I would need to have answers to before I would be able to kind of give a realistic, time frame for publication.
And with that, I guess the question then becomes how many books have you published? Ballpark.
21.
No, for others.
Oh Lord.
Just ballpark, 50, 100?
No, not that many.
Okay.
Let's say 100.
Okay, that's 100. And how would you assess the success of those books, given that you critiqued it before I started?
Bermudians, if we're comparing Bermudians to the world stage, there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Okay.
It's not a quick fix. Yes, we live in the microwave generation, but some things, it's a marathon. And so there are so many factors to hitting bestseller.
Okay.
So I can critique your manuscript. I've given them back the manuscript critique and they give up. I've had people take it and rework it, and just it's a lengthy process.
Okay.
You can come to me with a manuscript, I can publish you tomorrow. But if you want to hit bestseller status and really make an impact, it's a journey.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's hard to answer.
So, okay. As a non-author, then what is bestseller? What's the level to get to that? Like, what does that mean?
Sure. So there are levels to bestseller. You have New York Times bestseller. Now, Brooklyn has been published in about 2 years now. Back when I was publishing, they had actually removed the NYT bestseller. But in order to do that, it's really just math. You need to, for New York Times, you had to have sold, I'm throwing this number out there, let's say 50,000 books.
Whoa.
For New York Times. So the strategy for that, and if anybody listening, they want to hit it, you do pre-orders, and you pump up your pre-orders. You're on social media, you're getting it, my book's coming, people are pre-ordering the book.
Okay.
And then on the day it drops, 50,000.
What?
You have hit New York Times bestseller. They haven't read it yet, but you sold 50,000 books because you strategized and you got 50,000 people to get it.
Whoa.
So that's one way. Same with Amazon bestseller. So I am an Amazon best-selling author.
Okay.
I was able, on the day of release, let's say it shot up to like number one in romance.
Yes.
My book was at number one. So I got bestseller. I got the little orange tag bestseller. So it's really about volume of sales in a specific amount of time. which speaks, I guess, to your popularity, if that makes sense.
So in that context, just as a ballpark, then that means you sold how many books to get you to that number one bestseller?
So it depends on what other books. So if I was releasing a book and a colleague who was very popular, let's say Theodora Taylor, she is super popular.
Right.
If I hit number one, it means I sold one more book than she did. So let's say she sold 500 in 24 hours. I sold 501. So but then the next day, she might have sold more than me. So it shifts. So it's very dynamic. It's a very dynamic process.
So is it on a day then? So today I sold more than anybody else, I get number one bestseller?
Yes.
Okay.
And tomorrow, if I sell it again, that tag still stays there. The minute it shifts, the tag goes.
Okay, but you would still be able to say that you were the best.
Yes, most definitely.
Okay, got you, understood. And so because it's a financial show, and because I want to make sure that I get these questions in, so give us a ballpark in terms of how much it costs to do this. Whatever you want to share in terms of ranges, or how does it work? If Anthony wants to know, I'm going to hire you first of all, I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do, how does that all work?
It depends on the stage at which you come. So if you have so let's use, I can use Rashima as an example. Rashima came with a flawless manuscript. Did I edit?
Flawless?
And that was the thing, even just for it moving forward.
And I thought you were joking.
No. And I'm gonna kick it back to her. But what happened was, I had it on my dresser. About 5 bulldog clips later, rusted, and I put another one, rusted, put another one, rusted, and then I was like, you know what, I'm taking it off. I did go through the editing process just on low key, not bestseller. And I was just like, you know what, I wanted to get it published because I had finished.
So you edited
had
yourself?
Finished. Yes, and I also had some other readers, but I had a small circle because at that time it was still just me and just my private thoughts and my private space. So really there wasn't a whole lot of people in that circle and in that space.
Sure.
So I then knew of Tisha and I knew of her in publishing, and then also my girlfriend Regina Simone, and then my godmother Norma Ann Smith. They had published with Letitia. So I said, well, hey, that's good for Letitia. And I called her up and whatnot, and she was like, okay, well, you need to write. I'm like, I'm done. And she's like, okay, well, did that. I've done that.
Okay.
And so I came in at that phase. And so I didn't ask for her to edit or anything. She's like, what about a book cover, those kinds of things? I said, oh, I have that.
Okay.
And so I think, I was probably one of her more unique customers, for lack of a better phrase, because she was like, you know what, I normally take people from the beginning to the end, and so I more or less came in at the end, and also it allows me an opportunity to review and see some things, because again, I was like, listen, if I don't get this done, school starts September 1, it's never going to get done, and then, oh my gracious, it's going to be back on my dresser with another rusty bulldog clip. So that was me, but she definitely offers much more.
Gotcha. And so, I guess being reasonable, what would be a range of cost from the just people have people have an idea as to what this would take.
Beginning to end, I would say $5,000.
That's to have you do your piece plus have it published?
Yes, that's beginning to end. That's editing, book cover design, and that's custom book cover design. Beginning to end. The editing, so to let listeners know, expect to make your biggest investment in the area of editing. That's where you're paying the money.
And that's literally somebody going through, reading it,
line by line,
and all that kind of stuff, and making sure it makes sense, all that kind of thing.
There were 3 levels of editing. So typos was what I call a level 1 edit. It's a proofread.
Okay.
I'm just going through, checking for errors, punctuation.
Right.
You also have a developmental edit, which is where you bring me a manuscript and I am looking at the structure of the story, the plot. Does it make sense? Are your characters round? I'm literally critiquing the story and making recommendations for the actual how the story lands. A line edit is where I'm going through line by line and optimizing the sentences. So making sentences tighter, rephrasing things. So 3 levels of edit. Level 1's proofread, which you kind of put on top of the other ones.
Yes.
Level 2 is a line edit, and level 3 is developmental.
Okay.
And that's where authors will spend, that's where you want to spend the money.
Yes.
Because it means that the editors, they're doing a good job. or that's where the money is spent.
And I guess I'll ask you this question too. So absent you writing, sorry for the listening audience again, thanks for joining us here on Magic 102.7 on your Sunday evening. Our guest this evening is Miss Rashima Swan and Miss Letitia Washington. They're talking about writing, and I call it Bermuda's written legacy, Burmese style, to be honest, and now having some conversations in terms of what's actually required. And we're going to come back in a minute and talk about the book itself now, but I want to touch base again on the publishing aspect. And because, I guess it's not a little bit of money, but not a lot of money in terms of $5,000 ballpark, I guess between 5 and 10, let's say, to actually go from start to finish and get a book done. And so for those aspiring writers, you know what's going to happen. You're going to have to make an investment.
Yes.
At some point.
Yeah.
And you can, depending on what you know, you can start at different levels to reduce that cost, even though I believe that the cost should not be the first focus. It should be what are you doing? Why are you doing it? And do you have the time to spend to get it done? Gotcha.
And I think that's a good point. Why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Depending on your genre, like for me, I was doing it for profit. I was at one point a full-time author, and so I was churning out books because I had a fan base, and people were literally waiting for Brooklyn Nights books. I was churning out books every 6 weeks.
Whoa.
Yeah, but I was full-time. That's what I did.
Full-time meaning like you were not working, you were actually...
I was a full-time author, yes, for about 3 years.
Whoa.
And so I was doing it for money. I was doing it to make a profit.
Sure.
However, if you're writing something like Black Pearls, you're not necessarily, you're going to make the investment, but it's more about the reception of the book, the impact that the book is having on women.
Yes, okay.
The changed lives that will occur. And so again, a lot of Bermudian authors, they're telling their stories. For some of them, it's for self, to heal self.
Yes.
Trauma, to kind of put closure to different things. For some authors, it's to help audience, women. I haven't had any men yet, so I'm waiting for a guy to come with an amazing book to speak to men in Bermuda. But so that's the if I was looking at them, trends, Bermudians tend to write their stories.
Okay.
So yeah, that's where you have to am I doing this? What am I doing this for?
Okay. Yeah. And so is it then from that, if you're writing your story, it's actually less follow-up? If you write for romance, you can write them all the time, sort of thing, as opposed to, so I'm asking, guys, is it, so when somebody writes their story, it's basically going to be like one off, one and done, sort of thing?
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm asking, because it's your story and that's it.
Essentially, yes. Now, I had one author who wrote her story, and then people were like, where's part 2? I said, she had to write part 2 of her story.
Right.
So, yes, that has happened.
Gotcha. And to go back 1 minute, in terms of you writing as Brooklyn Knight, how did you get how did it work for you to keep on going 3 years, every 2 months, let's say, right? How did that work? It's not just the oomph.
Yeah. So, again, writing since 6, as far as I remember, my characters were alive.
Okay.
So now we're talking fiction, right? So this is we're shifting it a little bit, because my characters were alive, meaning I would finish one book, I would have characters talking to me about the next book.
Okay.
So this is a creative. If any creatives are listening, this will resonate with them.
Yes.
That's how it was. I had characters that had stories and I'm very visual, so I could see my characters. And I think one of my strengths as an author, which my reviews on Amazon will say, is that I was able to, they could see what the story.
Yes.
So I could take it out of my head and put it on the page in a way that readers could oh my gosh, I see what's happening. So another technique was series. So you finish book 1 and you end on a cliffhanger.
Yes.
Right? And then you gotta get book 2. So again, money.
Okay.
If you want to know what happens to Joe Braun in book 1, you gotta buy book 2, and then book 3.
Okay.
So that's how I sustained writing, my characters being very vivid and my imagination being very vivid, and then a strategy such as series.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then, if I may, why the transition away from writing?
For spiritual reasons. God was like, that's enough. Yeah. I mean, really, I just have to be real.
Okay.
God told me to shut it down.
Okay. And then you went into, and now you're working with children, you said, yeah?
Yes. So I'm at Mirrors now, yes.
And to what degree does the writing influence what you're doing now? Or is there any connectivity as such?
Well, that's a really good question. So I actually host, we call them Statement Fridays. This is where I teach young people how to write personal statements, so for college and for scholarships. And it's not my methodology. It's actually from Peer Forward. So anyone listening may be familiar with Peer Forward, which is in the high schools. But this methodology, teaching young people how to write impactful personal statements, uses the story structure, which is what I used every day for 3 years to create my characters and my engaging stories. This is how we teach young people to write their personal statements, to grip people by the throat. So when you walk into that scholarship committee, you've gripped them by the throat. And so I'm teaching young people how to write their personal statements using the very process that I used to write best-selling stories. It's like amazing how God just made that happen, allowed that to happen.
And so in terms of they're not children, they're young adults, I guess, right?
Yes, essentially.
How old are you, roughly?
My young people I work with, middle school to high school.
Oh, okay, children, older children, got you. And how is it going? Because I happen to be involved with the government scholarship interview process. And to be honest, I'm amazed at every time, like how bright the children are. A lot of times we focus on the negative, but there's so many positive things taking place, right? So how do they come back and give you feedback about how it went, or how does that work?
So this is the first time it's rolling out, like I'm on cohort 2.
Okay.
So this is the pilot.
Okay.
So I will, my program is very data driven. So I will be able to speak to outcomes, give me till next year. But we've just started it. We've just started rolling it out. Mind you, Peer Forward has been in existence in Bermuda for about 10 years.
Okay.
But we're just kind of taking this piece and broadening it. So,
and for some of us parents, how does it work in terms of tying into the school system? What you do now is that actual old school children, you say you work for Mirrors, right?
Yes.
So help us to understand how the Mirrors program ties into education generally.
So Mirrors is very present in the schools, from middle school all the way up to high school.
Okay.
If you want to know more about Mirrors, I would just say check our website. We have so many programs. In fact, we're about to host a middle school camp in February. So
and
young
people
persons
take advantage too.
Yes,
we partner with Mirrors as well.
Okay.
So I would say check out the website, mirrors at gov.bm. And then you'll be able to see all of our programs. We're evolving, we're growing. We have a full team now. But yeah, you can definitely, parents listening who want to take part in any of this, they can get involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you for all of that. Now we're going to transition back, to the book more specifically. Good old Miss Rashima. So talk to me a little bit in terms of how you chose your writer's name, first of all. How's that? What does it mean? All that kind of stuff.
And that's the funny thing, Amara. When I finished writing, I had to contemplate. I'm like, okay, there is only one Rishima Faluke Swan. Really, there's only one Rishima, and definitely one Rishima Faluke Swan. So when I was thinking of whether I'm going to have a pseudonym or, how do you fling Rishima Faluke Swan? It just seemed so highfalutin.
Okay.
And I just thought, and I'm like, well, okay. And I had to go back to my African names because that's who I am.
Okay.
And so I actually did go online and I went through various names, like, what did I think spoke to me? And then I saw Amara, which means love. And it just was like, yes, that's it. It just fit. And I'm like, that's the name. Now Amara needs a last name.
Okay.
And I'm like, and it wasn't going to be Swan. So I'm like, okay, Amara this. And, I'm thinking because Amara, 2 syllables. So what kind of last name? Is it another 2-syllable name? Yes, all of that. Yes, my mind went there because it has to flow. When you say it, it has to be a fluid name, even though it's a fictitious name, pseudonym, but it still has to be something that flows. And for the life of me, it took a long time for the last name, and it did. And I think I probably hit a blank wall. And I'm like, well, is this going to be like a zine? Like it's a one-word name? And then I'm like, well, I don't know, Amara seems like is not finished. And then I thought, now I had to come out of my little African book, and I went into a little Frenchie. And Duval is in the valley. Okay. And I said, well, you know what? Because that was where I was in. I was in a valley. Okay. I was in a valley where I was finding myself and learning to love myself. So I was like, that's it. Okay, the African and the French.
Okay.
There we go. And so Amara Duval was born. Amara meaning love, and Duval is the valley of. And I said, yeah. And I said it a few times. And then I said, okay, let me see how it looks. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, yes, that's it. And then I was like, okay, yes, that's it. So by the time you have to say, okay, yeah, that's it, probably ran that through my mind a few times. And, you sleep on it another day. And I'm like, nope, that's it. Okay. And so I was like, well, all right, well, this is it.
But it was after you wrote the book?
Yes. That was the very last thing that I did.
Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is go through some of what I remember. And I want you to pull some things out as to how you want it to have an impact on people that are listening, right? And I will say to the listening audience, again, our guest this evening is Miss Rashima Swan and Miss Letitia Washington. We're talking about Black Pearls. Anthony is a male, of course, right? And one of my observations is that there are many women in Bermuda who, for a variety of reasons, they end up at a point whereby they are in my words, I guess, dysfunctional relationships, right? Is a common thing. And it's not to be offensive, but it is what it is. And we're afraid to talk about that. But in one of your stories, or one of your chapters, Rob, you talk about that the person, I wouldn't say you, but the person woke up one day and said, you know what, this is not quite working for me. And as you said earlier, it's they get up in the morning, they go to work and come back to the second job, which might be the first job, and have to have some realization in terms of, you know what, this is not working. And then your son said to you, you may have thought he was not paying attention, but in the chapter, your son said to you, Mommy, I want you to basically hurry up and get out of this relationship because it's not working. So talk to us about that in terms of how you would want women to relate to that and what you want them to get out of it as a healing.
Okay. And I guess that goes back to the genesis even of the book. Okay. While it started with me on my journey of self-love and self-efficacy, and where I want to see, and as Letitia said, I guess, yes, I'm one of those Bermudians telling a story. And I have a lot of other scripts, but I wanted this one to be me.
So this is the first of many, is it?
I do have some other things.
Okay, sorry.
But I didn't want it to be totally honest, being in my career path. It's like, why you don't write about, leadership or, education in Bermuda, that kind of thing, which I understand that. I'm like, but that's not what I want as my, I don't want to say swan song in a positive way from a first is a last.
Right.
I didn't want that to be like my first
They're not sexy, clearly.
So,
leadership? No.
I know, but that's how people perceive you. That if you do have something to share, then it must be commensurate to the career that you're in. And I get that too. And I'm like, but that took me right back to the valley that I was in.
Okay.
Who am I? I'm not just a principal. I'm not just an administrator, that kind of thing. Like there is a me, there is a personal side. So I'm saying all that to go back to your question. Yes, being in the profession and just being, a woman in the community, as I am, I'm not as evolved as I used to be, because I wanted to ensure that I gave my son the best that I could, and I wanted to be there. But I have the opportunity to definitely be in a lot of circles and to observe, to be a listening ear, never to be judgmental, because, as the Father says, judge not, for you should be judged. And sometimes people perceive that they are being judged. And sometimes it's true, sometimes it isn't. But again, perception is often people's reality.
Yeah.
And in that particular chapter, it's that I'll say that one is close, where a lot of times we wear masks. We do. As a woman, you have to have it together. That is the expectation. The expectation is that you have it together, whether you have it together or not. That comes later, but you are expected as a working mother, just as a woman, as a black woman, you are expected to have it together. And darn it, if you don't have it together, then you better figure out how you're going to get it together. And it's easier said than done for a lot of people. Now, when it comes to the relationship aspect, now I know you said you find that a lot of Bermudian women, but then that would mean that there are a lot of Bermudian men who are in dysfunctional relationships. I just want to put that out there. If that's your premise, if that's your premise, because that the women are not in a relationship alone,
yes.
And so that also tells a story too that we have women and men who are not in the most healthy relationships, and a lot of times persons do stay in relationships because of financial reasons, because of just comfort. It's hard to start over, to find somebody new, just using the terminology about, I know the devil I'm got, but I don't know the devil I might get. And that's a cliche that people use, So you know what? It may not be the healthiest, but it's safe. It's safe. And not necessarily realizing the impact that it has on young people. Of course, that's what I do. I deal with children. That's my career path. So I've seen, different kinds of family relationships, even within my own family circles, how adult decisions, adult behaviors adversely impact children. And a lot of times I get it, that they are decisions that are made because they are decisions that may have been made because it's a necessity. Because different strokes, different folks. We never know what's going on behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times, the young people that I'm involved with and that I interact with, they are so on, like they know the story, the ins, the outs, mom and daddy might not have a clue, but at the end of the day, they are so clued in, and they're like, please end it. And so that was where that story came from, where it's just like, you're together, you're faking the front, you're arguing, you're fussing, you're fighting, you're not in a healthy relationship. It's detrimental to your child or to your children, and really the children are quietly saying, end it. And so as far as encouraging anyone, people obviously make their own decisions.
Yes.
And, we're respectful of that. But at the same time, that still doesn't mean that even in a situation such as that there is no hope. And see, and that's also from the angle I'm coming from. We don't know what somebody's story is. We don't know why someone may choose to stay in a relationship that we may, from the outside looking in, may have said, what? I would have been like, later, I'm going. We just don't know. But it's always, I always say, when you lose hope, then you've lost. And so out of that is also, there's always hope. And to be hopeful, and depending on what your situation is, you may not be able to move. But at the end of the day, if you do have a ways and a means, and it's just a matter of releasing and, like they say, letting go, then also encouraging and empowering the person from within to actually make these steps to do something different and something that's more beneficial.
As a self-motivator,
yes,
you encourage your own person that's within, I'm asking.
Yes, and that means digging deep and also finding your circle. Finding a circle that's going to encourage you to be better, because a lot of people don't want to see you be better.
And how do you discern that in terms of, you have all your friends, right? And some of them, like you said, are basically there to help you in your demise as opposed to help you get out of it.
Well, I think we look at the outcomes. If being in this circle, is it uplifting me? Am I making any progress? And that's an easy question to answer. It's either yes or no. It's being in this, I'm going to say it's being in this peer group, or I'm going to even just use one person, talking to this particular ace girl.
Yes.
Sometimes you just need the ace girl to talk to just vent. That's not the ace girl that's going to empower you and encourage you to be better. But I need a vent. So vent, let's have that. However, we can't stay at venting. We have to obviously move. If not, we end up being bitter. And then we end up inflicting a lot more harm on ourselves than what we might say of someone else.
So are you suggesting that within your friend set there are different people for different reasons?
Oh, well, in my friend group,
Not you personally,
in
but
my
you-
friend group, yes.
Not you personally, but you.
No, I'm
the
going to
author.
talk about my friend group
Okay.
because I have a very good friend group. I have a very strong friend group, and definitely each friend has his and her role because it's not just female friends; it's male friends as well. People that I know that I can count on for sound advice, to check me. And those kinds of things, and to support. And sometimes it's just to have a cry, have a hug, have a listening ear. So yes, having a healthy friend group is very important. And sometimes, certain friends or one particular friend might be more beneficial at a certain time versus another, because everyone has the role to play.
That's interesting, by the way. I'm thinking of, as you're saying, that Barack Obama, when he became the president, right? His idea was that you don't want an inner circle that always tells you yes. You want someone that's going to tell you no, because that's when you need to be real. And
Yes.
that's interesting, as you said, as you're talking, that came to me in terms of, as friends, you don't want the friends to always say, yes, what you're doing is right. Sometimes you want them to say, no, Anthony, this is not right at all. It makes no sense. And so you need that. And hopefully, in the listening audience, there are people that understand that now, that you don't have, like, one friend cannot be everything to you. You have some differences, and to know that there's a friend you have fun with, for example.
And that's the beauty of friendship,
Yeah,
because
okay.
we're not all alike. We are all different. And so with us being different, then we're going to bring our unique character traits. We all have our flaws because no one is perfect, but we all have different strengths. And that's what a good friend group and friends that you want to, that who you can actually rely on, because they have individual strengths.
And what message do you have to young people, for example, either of you, by the way, to young people that have that sense whereby they think that's just my one friend is the end of my life sort of thing, if that person goes somewhere?
I'll let you go.
Okay. What's the? I'm sorry. Can you say the
What's your
question
message to
again?
young people who are who are listening to us now, or even parents of younger people, right, who think that they have to have one friend that's the be all and end all, as opposed to having a set of friends that can not use, but you interact with different friends for different reasons?
I guess I would say that, and some of it comes with maturity as well,
Okay.
I tell a lot of young people, there's life after high school. A lot
Okay.
of students think high school this is it. But once they get to college, that's when they become exposed to real life, as it were.
Okay.
So for the young person who thinks that, this is my friend, this is it right here, I would tell them to live a little longer, open themselves up to opportunities, explore, be curious
Wow.
about life, and give themselves the opportunity to try something new. And they might surprise themselves when they realize that this one part, there are other people who can support me or who can understand me. So yeah, just be curious about life and stretch yourself, and just
Yeah.
try something new.
And I mean, working in the school system, of course, these are the conversations, I would say, good leaders, good educators, those who are caring. These are the conversations that we do have. I'm now at the middle level, and a lot of times, of course, when students think of the transition in particular, and the students or the children that you're in school with now, you're not going to be hanging around them when you go to senior school. There are some friendships, yes, that do remain, absolutely. And as Letitia said, as you get older, you'll find that that core group dwindles, it filters, and just sharing with our young people that that's a part of the journey.
Yes.
Okay.
It's not a negative thing. It's a part of life. It's a part of evolving. And that's what it is, seeing life as an evolution, and that, you consistently and constantly are evolving. And again, being curious. Just because someone doesn't necessarily look like you, dress like you, sound like you, doesn't mean that that person can't be beneficial to your being and your existence, or vice versa.
Okay.
But you have to have an open mind. And I think from an educator standpoint, that's part of the work. Helping our young people to understand how to have an open mind, why I should have an open mind, and the benefits of having an open mind. Because as Letitia said, the world becomes then your oyster.
Sure. And it may be, because we live on Bermuda, which is 21 square miles, that our young people, if they don't have the opportunity to travel beyond this frontier, that they do limit themselves, and they think Bermuda, the parrot, this is it. Like, oh, I can't go to this part. This is my parish. This is my. But there is life beyond Bermuda,
Wow.
and so I think another piece that's important is giving our young people experiences to stretch themselves and being very intentional about placing them in situations which test them and
Yes.
stretch the resilience.
Oh,
You know what I
okay.
mean?
Okay. I want to go back a minute in terms of the comment when I was talking about women in dysfunctional relationships. You were very adamant. It's not women by themselves, it's women and men, right? And I appreciate that. I want to make sure I say that because a lot of times we do look at one half of it as opposed to both
Yes.
sides of it in terms of you cannot be dysfunctional by yourself if I'm the partner.
Right.
I'm dysfunctional also.
Yes.
And so to those in the listening audience, I want to make sure that we got that point, especially for any males that are there in terms you can't just criticize or critique women. You got to understand that there's a male role in that whole process. Another chapter that I recall reading about is, I want to call it the money chapter, that you refer to the fact that, and it was quite interesting.
So,
that-
like, let
that
me
you-
turn to that chapter.
Well, I mean, and well, what I'm interested in is, your comment is that you want, everybody would like to have more, but you're happy with the fact that at least when you get paid, you can pay your bills. You may have zero left over afterwards, but at least you have enough to cover yourself. So talk about that in terms of how money does or does not bring comfort to you in terms of at least a base level of existence.
When scripting that one, now this is me. This is me.
Okay.
Rashima really would like to have some more money.
Everybody would.
No, not it depends.
Okay,
Depends. And if you look at the chapter, money, yes. The way how I see money, yes, is a commodity, and it's something, yes, that we need in order to live. You can't buy a loaf of bread without money. You know, you can't get your groceries without money. You can't have your Balco bill on without money. So I understand that it's a necessity, because it is.
Yes.
And I do understand that also having more of it, now, a lot of times, more problems.
Yeah.
But also having more of it can allow a person to live a more comfortable life. And so when I was actually reflecting, you know, single mother, and honestly, you know, my son's father, we co-parent. You know, my girlfriend says, when are you all gonna do a workshop? Because you guys got along so well.
Okay.
You know, you do this thing. Wow. And we laugh about it. And that in itself has been a journey. But again, when I was looking at myself, not the Carter's father or any other family member, talking about just Rashima. You know, Rashima, exactly. Rashima works her 35-hour work week. Yes, she gets her salary commensurate to the hours she's worked. Here are the monthly bills, weekly bills, those kinds of things. And it's not uncanny to then be like, gee, like, what else? And for me, like my son was like, well, you know, maybe you should get another job, or another job that would allow you to get another job. After I finished working at Whitney,
You mean
I'm done.
There's no job, a second job.
Yeah, a second job. I'm
okay.
like, no, that is the job. That's the first, second, third, and fourth job. I have no more energy for another job. Because, of course, most persons, if they have the ways and means or what have you, then they're like, they will get a second job. And so I was in that phase of mine. And I'm like, you know what? I'm happy. I had to just stop. Because sometimes our want for things can actually propel us into a space where we're ungrateful and one of ingratitude, and that wasn't where I wanted to go. But it's easy to get there, and then you can become about, geez, how come, you know, I should get paid more money, you know, I'm not even gonna pay my work. And before you know it, you can become a negative Nancy real fast.
Wow.
And so for me, it was, wait a second, hold on. Let's look around. Let's take stock. Let's take inventory of the things that you do have. You have life, you have health, you have strength. And there's, well, again, simple, but that was where I was at. And, you know, you have a great son. You know, we have good relationship. You know, he talks, he's very open, he's very respectful. I'm like, what are you complaining about, girl? I'm like, please. And sometimes you have to check yourself. And so I would say that was one of those check yourselves. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. While you may not have all that you may wish and want, and I don't, I'm like, look at those things that you do have and try to delve a little deeper. That's what I had to do. Like, other than just, yes, I have this. Yes, I have a house. Yes. And there are people who don't have a home.
Correct.
There are people in Bermuda who don't earn their own home. And so it was an opportunity for me while I was seeking, while I was being introspective, to be that much more grateful for the blessings that I do have.
And as you've been talking, right, my question is for both of you now, it's going to be, you are describing you, either you personally, you the author, right? And my question is, but is it atypical, or is this a broader description of how life is in Bermuda? Because you're a school principal, everything okay, fine, well paid, whatever we compare that to, but how typical is what your experience is? And for both of you, how practical is it to stop and say, hey, let me just press pause and see this thing? How current is it? How common is what you're experiencing?
It's very real.
Very real among other people?
Yes.
Other women?
Yes.
Okay.
And men too.
Okay.
But no, honestly, it's, as you know, you say the cliche, the struggle is real. It is. And people are living it every day to different and varying degrees. And there are lots of people who are just about surviving, but who are presenting themselves in their best selves.
Yeah.
Not wearing their emotions on their sleeves because I have to basically put forward this persona, and I understand that as well. But there are a lot of persons who are finding living conditions challenging. And there are professionals who are possibly looking for a 2-bedroom.
Yeah.
I've been looking for some professionals who are like, hey, Miss Swan, Rashima, if you know of anything. And these are people, yes, who have, good jobs, but they can't find the living arrangements that would be conducive for them. But yes, they have somewhere to stay, but it's not their ideal. And so that in itself, that is a struggle. And also from a financial standpoint, when you're looking at what the cost of rent is, when you're looking at the cost of what purchasing your own home may be, most of us, we grew up, can't wait to get our house. But first of all, I couldn't wait to move out. I can't wait to have my own apartment. Right. And then, of course, eventually I can wait to have my own house. It's a big financial price tag. And there are many families who are working the 2, the 3, the 4 jobs to pay a mortgage. Now, some people might say, wow, that's a choice, because they didn't have to have their own house. And I'm like, well, I think that's a little judgmental too. People have a right, I do believe, to dream. Yeah. And dream responsibly, of course, to be responsible. But people have a right to dream. So if you're living in Bermuda and you're a Bermudian, why can't you dream of having your own home? Why would that be? But again, as the current climate is and the current financial climate, to have those things, it comes with a lot of sacrifice and a lot of financial strain.
And so the next question, I guess, becomes, and it may be an unfair question, but if you could give some sense of how many of them are how many people really are living the struggle, as opposed to some are making it, and suppose others who are just living their life. Just to get a sense as to what is your sense of where are we at? Either of you.
Okay, can you say that again?
So you have painted a picture, right? Whereby your circumstance is you have a very respectful son, you're a principal, and so your living may not be where you really want to be, but you're making it. How many people would you say are in that circumstance, as opposed to living the struggle, as opposed to living, just got tons of money?
Well,
based upon your friend settled, based upon your interaction with other women.
quite a few professionals. I would say in my category, I may not have a lot left over.
Yes.
But I do have. And, we sacrifice for trips and all of these kinds of things. There are a lot of people who don't have and who have less than that. And yes, the struggle is real. And those are the persons that, we're called upon to help and lend a helping hand, and not from a I'm up high and you're down low, but it's just that, you know what, we're all in this together. And as far as people who have a plethora of money, well, Anthony, not too many of them are in my network and in my circle. And I'm going to be honest, because I also find that circle has that circle of friends as well. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not going to say that I don't have friends that do have an inordinate amount of money, because I do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but not as many as those who are either living below or probably at my level. I classify myself as upper poor, because the middle class is being obliterated. And it really is.
Sure.
And so before I would be considered as a middle class woman, I now see the middle class, and with just, you know, the financial times, global financial times, not just here in Bermuda, but just globally, are now considered the upper poor.
And so, and I guess both of you now, but how would you respond to the question that you are not in this struggle area, so therefore your perspective is not real for me who is in the struggle area?
Well, we're all going to have different perspectives. And who's to say that my struggle isn't a struggle because you don't see that the struggle is my struggle? You understand? Like, my struggle is my struggle, and it's a subjective struggle because, well, yes, one may, for example, you know, we tend to look at people and then we make our judgment call.
Yes.
But we don't know what that person is undertaking. We don't know the responsibilities that that individual might have in his or her life. We don't.
Okay.
But we look from outside in. I see this, so I say, oh, therefore thus, this must be. But who's to say that that picture is accurate? You know, and one wouldn't know unless you have a conversation or unless you become privy to what is really going on in that person's life. And so that's why we have to be, you know, so careful, because what we might see, okay, that people show us what they choose to show us.
Yes.
And what you may not see are, you know, who's taking care of their grandmother, who's taking care of their grandfather, who's taking care of their parents. You may not see that, but that might be a part of that person's reality. So even when sometimes we then say, because we see someone and they supposedly have an XYZ type of job, then therefore that must mean we cannot make these assumptions.
And that's interesting, again, and to push back is okay, fine. We see Rashima Swan. She has a respectful son. She's a school principal. She got a nice car, got this, and so therefore she's living her life.
And yeah, somebody would say that. And I'm not saying that I'm not. But I'm just saying is because I do believe that I'm living the life that I am living. I'm living the life that I think I'm meant to live, and a purpose-driven life. And I am not complaining about my life. Absolutely not. Definitely not. However, what I'm saying is that someone can also very easily have a misconception.
Okay, I got you.
You know, so while I have my son, there are other things that I take care of in my life. And I would say I am a person who takes care of my grandmother. I have one living grandparent, and I help with taking care of my grandmother. But that's not something that I wear on my sleeve.
Yeah.
You know, but it is a very important responsibility.
Okay.
You know, because she's important. And without her, then there wouldn't be my mother, then there wouldn't be myself, then there wouldn't be my son. So, you know, we have 4 generations. And so as we want to take care of our elderly, take care of our seniors, then I think that's how we were raised. We were raised that, you know what, at some point, our family members are going to get older, and it is our responsibility to take care. But I'm just saying, if you don't know me, then, or you're not in my circle, you wouldn't know that. So I say, well, if that's something that's a takeaway from my life, who's to say that there's not something else in someone else's life?
Okay, gotcha. Again, to the listening audience, thank you for joining us here on Magic 102.7 on your Sunday evening for another edition of Insight. Having a wonderful opportunity in terms of talking to Ms. Rashima Swan and Ms. Letitia Washington about writing books, and now talking more in depth about the book that has been written by Ms. Rashima. And so the other thing I want to ask about, well, 2 more things, but one is your son.
Yes.
And I take the point that you wrote this in first person, not always your circumstances. But I would say that based upon what's been written, you owe, that's the wrong word, but it will be interesting for you to give a comment about the impact of your son in your circumstance. You're a single parent, but your son is respectful, as you said, and he's done some things or given some comments, according to the book, that's made you switch up in a positive way.
Well, as I like to call myself, a single mother, because I'm not a single parent. Because
And what's the difference?
Well, because I'm unmarried,
Okay.
but I'm not a single parent. Dwight Farbit, I have mad props for him. That is Bakari's father,
Okay.
and we co-parent.
Okay.
And so because we co-parent, I'm not a single parent, but I am a single mother, meaning a single woman. I'm a single woman.
And just to stop, because those are listening, watching on Facebook, they will wonder what I'm talking about. But your facial reaction is very powerful, right? In terms of Anthony, you're crazy, right? But I'm not, because I think you're making a very important point, right? That you're not a single parent because you're not married. A single parent depends upon both parents being present, and you said you co-parent.
Yes.
And I'll ask in a minute about the effectiveness of co-parent and how did that work out for you guys. But anyway, so go ahead, do it. Talk about keep going.
And in checking myself, I think one of the chapters, of course, because now I haven't heard, when we were talking about going to school, and my girlfriend, she and her husband, they traveled last night, and she was like, I am going to read this before I tune in tomorrow night. And she's like, oh my gracious, I read the chapter about, the school and being late, and that had to do with, just balance and things of that nature. My son, respectful, but he's been raised to also speak, but you have to speak in a respectful manner if you wish to be heard. Just because you have a voice doesn't mean that you use it. It's how you use your voice. And so then it was the one balance. It's the second chapter. This was like true. I was supposed to pick him up.
And for those who have read about it, tell them the story so they can understand what you're talking about.
I was supposed to pick Bakari up. And he would say, don't be late. Mama, don't be late. And I'm like, I'm not going to be late. I'm not going to be late. But yes, it's in the after-school program. I had no complaints. He's safe.
Right.
But your child's like, don't be late. Do not be late. And this one particular afternoon, I just was late. And again, being in the valley that I was in, reflecting. I had to reflect on Rashima the mother, Rashima the professional, Rashima the sister, Rashima the friend, all of this hats. And when I started thinking of my son, I had to be like, you know what? Am I a good mother? And not that I didn't think I was, but you still have to ask the question. And then I have to be like, well, if you're a good mother, why? What's your evidence? Because I know that's my English skills.
Okay.
Make your point, your evidence, your explanation, your examples. And I then started thinking of some of the times where I felt that I had let my son down. And now, for somebody else being late, whatever, he got it right.
Right.
But no, I'm like, hey, that was important to him. And then I had to go back to, well, why was I late? Well, because I was serving someone else. And so that's for me where the balance. Rashima, you're serving, and it's a career of servitude, because it is. It just is. If you're not into serving, if you're into self, it's not going to work. And I very rarely say no. So if someone comes to me to talk or what have you, do you have 5 minutes? At that point, let me say at that point, because now I do. At that point, I didn't say no.
Okay.
I would look at the clock, and I can have this conversation and get to the after-school program and do the pickup.
Not you, but go ahead.
And so, because I always felt that if I said no, I was letting that person down, that colleague down. Like, well, they need you, but then forgetting, well, you are needed over here. And so that's where the chapter balance came in, and where I had to resolve, I'll use that word, not solve, but resolve, that I needed to have more balance, and I needed to have evidence of it. Because a lot of times we say things, but there's no evidence of it. And so that experience just rings in my eardrums, because he was so livid. He was mad. He was mad. Okay, but I remember on St. John Street to pick him up from Solstice after school program. He was pissed off.
Wow.
Like, you're always late. Da, da, da. And you know what? He let me have it. But guess what? I deserved it.
And how did you choose at the time not to respond in terms of, you're my son, so therefore you like take the mama road and tell him basically shut up or dismiss it?
But you have to be humble.
But again,
And but no, it has to be humility, because if I'm not humble, then that's how I'll react. He wasn't saying it to me. First of all, I knew I was late.
Right.
So I have to admit, I wasn't going to go to him and say, "Wow, I'm here," which I could have. But then that's a lack to me of respect. That's a lack of respect.
But
and
as
a
a
lack
parent,
of
right?
humility.
Very often parents don't go that route that you're going. They will go the route of basically, I'm the parent, so basically, be quiet, shut up, whatever they say, get in the car. So my question is, how do you get to the point whereby you are prepared to be humble in front of your child? That doesn't happen very well.
Well, I just think it also has a lot to do with my upbringing and just my faith.
Okay.
You have to, in order to give love, you have to be love.
Okay.
And I could say that, but is that loving? And if I'm going to be like that, then what then are the repercussions down the road? Then my son will never think that he can share his disappointments.
Wow.
And I disappointed him. And if I shut him down and berate him, then technically he's really right.
Yes.
And he's not being rude about it, but he does have a right to express his emotions. He was disappointed. Now, I don't know what it was. It could have just been, "Mama, hi, I'm just ready to leave and go home." It could have been that when we got home, because he never went into his why. And I don't really think it even mattered. What mattered was I depended on you at that time, and you let me down. And so for me, I wanted to reassure him that A, I acknowledge, B, I'm sorry, and C, I'm going to try to do better, because that's really the three aspects of a true apology.
Okay.
And I did it, and I worked on it, and we got past that, but that was his moment. And I guess in life, and as we're raising our children, there are always those poignant moments that always stand out. That moment that you would never forget, and that you chuckle about it, but it was a learning. It was a moment for me to learn.
And so, this is when you were thinking about the book, right? You reflected on that, and that came back to life, I want to call it.
Yes.
How long was it between, how long ago was it that you still remembered it?
I mean, Bakari probably at that time was, he probably was maybe 10, 11. He's 19 now.
So it was like 5 or 6 years ago that you
That was
reflected on the book.
several years.
Wow. And it's interesting that resonated with you that much that it came back to you as part of this reflection time.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. And the other one I liked, by the way, is the story. Let me tell you, my mother's probably listening to the show tonight, right? Her thing was always never let a child go to school upset. So you must make sure, and I smile now. Well, I know I smile this because that means that in the morning,
Yes.
if you're going to be rude or do something crazy, do it in the morning. Because no legs come in, nothing, because you can make sure that you're okay going to school, right? But in your circumstance, you wrote, I keep saying you, but the author wrote, right, about the fact that you're always late in the morning. You had a conversation with your son at some point to try to say, let's get this thing sort of by, and then it worked. So tell us about that chapter, and then let's illustrate
yes,
it.
and with that chapter, it was basically we needed to get into a routine. And as Letitia will tell you, Letitia has 3. God bless her. Really, because with my one, I'm like, oh my gracious. I mean, my mama had 4. And I'm like, how in heaven's name did you do it? Like, doing this thing once
Some had more
and
than
trying
that,
to
yeah.
do it. And yes, there are people that have more than that. But we had to get in a routine. We had to get in this routine. And the routine was, getting out of the house by 7:45. And we don't stay far because I had already moved from Southampton because I was like, that wasn't happening. I'm like, no, I need to move into my own house. Oh my gosh, I glory in the people that live in the West because I did that for a hot minute and I was like, I'm going to have to eat crackers for the rest of my life because I need to move to my house. And but we had to have our routine so that I could drop him to school and then get back, and so that we had a semblance of peace. And it just wasn't working. He's not a morning person. You try to do the alarm clock thing, make your lunch, and we were having, our rah-rah moments. And really, I'm not a person, I don't like rah-rah moments. I mean, I think, yes, you have them because you have to have them, but to continue having, I guess, antagonistic interactions makes absolutely no sense to me. It's senseless, and it just it just makes for just a negative atmosphere. And I'm not a person that likes to live in or be a part of a negative atmosphere. And so he was getting out, we call it disagreeable. I'm like, hurry up. Okay, you're like, let's go, close the door. And it's not healthy. It wasn't healthy for him in the start of his day. It wasn't healthy for the start of my day. And we then had to be like, listen, okay, we work this out. Okay, let's do the... And he didn't want to prepare the night before, but I had to negotiate as much as I could do I said do it. Clearly I said do it, but he wasn't doing it. Hence we were having the conflict. So it was a matter of, again, allowing him to sit in my presence. Let's sit in each other's presence. And we need to talk about this because I realized that while I had moved from Southampton, I was closer to my job and still having road rage. So it was sharing him how I was feeling and then allowing him. I'm like, you're not happy and da-da, so what can we do? And so then it was like, well, let's start doing things, ironing clothes on the weekend, Saturday, doing lunch the night before. And we did that because, it's the honeymoon period. And afterwards that slackened off. But then also, I'm like, well, only better salads and things of that nature. So we did some negotiating.
And I'm sitting there amazed, right, that you as parent were negotiating with your son because, hey, I'm daddy, so get it done sort of thing. It's, I'll tell you what to do and make it happen. But guess what? In my eye, right, I see Letitia's nodding her head. And so how did you manage it in terms of the discipline or getting things organized? And as Rashima said, you had 3 rather than 1. And so how did you manage that whole morning thing? Or was it an issue with you also?
No, so it's interesting because I heard you querying why or her parenting style in terms of the negotiation and allowing the son to verbalize. And I'm nodding my head because my oldest son, as I mentioned, is 26. The next one is 17. There is a literal generation in terms of how they process and how they think. And and then the other one's 13. So the 13 and the 17-year-old, they're closer. And so I notice similarities in how they process in terms of, as a parent, how I communicate with them. The 26-year-old, different experience. This generation here, they are going to ask why. What worked for you and me and Rashima and what our parents shut up. Children are seen, not heard. We couldn't ask why. We would never ask why. Like, what?
Oh, Gloria.
What? You know what I mean?
Oh, Gloria, I hear you.
You would never ask why. But with this generation, that doesn't work. And so the parenting style is a little different. I think yours are older as well. If you was to have one now, I'm not going to speak that on you. I'm going to leave that alone. But if you used to have one now, you would see. So even in terms of, the routine and the negotiating, my 17-year-old, he's not a morning person. He's not. I could beat him out of the bed, but like, what is that gonna, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And you want to build children, or you want to build adults who have skill sets that they can negotiate, that they have voice, and that they are influential. You can't beat them into submission. That's how it worked for us,
right?
And we're fine.
Sure.
But this one, it doesn't work that way. So all of that to say, what I had to do with my 26-year-old, that didn't work with the 17-year-old. So you have to adjust. So it looks different for him and even the 13-year-old girl. Just navigating the different generations and how they process and think and respond to different stimuli.
And so both of you work in a professional capacity with children or young people anyway, right?
Yes.
So what is the message, though, to those who don't work in that capacity and are stressed all the time in terms of trying to, as you just said, understand the value and necessity of negotiating with your child? What's the message for them?
I think so. I mean, and I know this isn't about mirrors, but we actually
but it is what it is.
Right, because we host monthly parenting workshops. We just did. It's the first Thursday of every month. We literally just did discipline without damage.
Okay.
And it's online, they're virtual, and we had a speaker in, a presenter in, to talk about how you discipline your children without damaging. So how the words we're using, the and strategies that we can use to adjust our children's behavior without inflicting, whether it's physical harm, emotional harm. But I think for me, I think about the adult. When I look at my children, I see young men and young women.
Yes.
And I want a strong black man come out of my house. So I'm not going to beat you down. Because when you get to be a man, you're not going to have the tools or the skills to represent yourself if every time you try to do, and like Rashima said, it's got to be respectful because you have a voice. It doesn't mean you're saying any old thing, but definitely communicate with me. What were you thinking? What was going through your mind? When you, here's an example. Last night, I went in this morning. The 17-year-old had defuned some of girlfriend, I'll say, and they had fallen asleep with the video thing. This is inappropriate.
Yes.
Highly inappropriate. What were you thinking? This is exactly. Turn this off, and I'm replaying exactly what happened. I go, what is going on in here? Turn this off immediately. He turns it off. What were you thinking? Dialogue. Tell me how that made sense to you. That would never have happened if we would have got licks.
Yes.
But I'm having a conversation. What was going through your mind? How did that make sense? This is how I felt.
Okay.
To see this. This is my fear. I am afraid that if this happens, then it will.
Yeah.
Don't do it again, please. And that's how that went. But I gave him the space. So it was very firm, but I gave him the space to have the dialogue so that I could understand.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it's just a different parenting style. It's interesting. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
Yes, indeed. And it is. It's like you say, you want them to talk to you. Who wants to talk to someone that's going to be constantly not listening? That's if anybody. And I mean, and you're a man, and men say all the time, all women do is neg. I knew that's not all women, but that's something that men say often. But that's why I don't talk to you. Okay, well, I want my son to talk. He talks to me. I want to continue and develop that line of open communication. So on that date, like I put in her, I had to I was like, I apologize to my child for acting like a crazy woman. And yes, I truly did feel as if I was losing it. Yes, I acted like a crazy woman in the car. I acknowledge that. But at the same time, I needed to talk with him because he was in that space and I'm like, we're in this together. And so, there were some triggers and I needed him to know what my trigger was and what was triggering me. And what was triggering me, for example, you're not getting up. You're not moving. Mama's trying to go to work. The job I have. I have to get there early, and you're not helping. I need you to be a partner. I need you to partner in this family thing, this thing called family. You're not at a hotel. We're a family. And so family means we work together on all things. And so that was the conversation. And I needed him to understand his role as a member of our family.
Okay.
But I can't inform or educate or even try to persuade if I am haughty, if I am brass, if I am unapproachable, all of these kinds of things, because he's not going to be receptive.
And just to add on, so my son came back later today. I was like, hey, Mama, I apologize. This is what, so again, being approachable, you leave it open for the child to come and just kind of bring closure or just whatever needs to happen.
And because
just
they know,
approachability.
and they know the upbringing, train up a child in the way he should go. They know. And they do come back and they're like, I'm sorry. Okay, all right. All right, Mama. All right.
Okay.
And that is all I need to hear. It doesn't have to be this long diatribe. I know what all right, Mama means.
Gotcha. And so one question I had also, by the way, was in writing the book, and you talked already about not all of it is your personal experience, right? But talk to us a little bit in terms of your thought through your thinking through your vulnerability. Because by writing the book, no matter what the perspective is, you open yourself up to whether it be real thoughts, assumptions, all that kind. How did you navigate through that process?
Funny enough, I had a conversation with a longtime friend of mine, someone who I grew up with, a male friend, and he actually posed that to me. He's like, well, Sheems, you know how some people and because again, that's why you need those types of friends. And so he posed all of that. And it's like, not everyone's going to be happy. Not everyone is going to want to be supportive, or not everyone's going to have positive words to say. And so Yes,
Oh, wow,
in
okay.
general. And so I'm saying he just gave me the whole shebang, including what you were talking about. And as far as things to think on. And I did. So that was sort of like, I guess, my homework. My homework, for him, like, hey, have you thought of this? Same kind of question. And then afterwards, I resolved. I'm like, this is what I'm doing. I just resolved, this is what I'm doing. And then I said, well, gee, not everyone is supportive of everything that you do. No.
Yes. Okay.
So what difference would that really make? The people who are going to support you will support you. The people who are not going to support you, and I'm just talking about in general in life,
Sure.
they're not going to support you. Depending on the situation, circumstance, experience, interaction, you may win some of these fence sitters over because people will say, oh, well, gee, I didn't know that about you. Oh, gee, I didn't know that about her. Because again, when you don't know of someone, then you're more standoffish and you're more likely to judge and be judgmental. And I think I resolved that this is going to be the story. This is the story. This is going to be the story that Amara Duval presents. And really come high water, this is it. I'm okay with it. Because guess what? I'm okay with me.
Okay.
And that's what matters. And that was the whole point of the journey. Being okay with me. So if someone oh, what? That's how she does. As Mel Robbins says, let them.
Well,
I'm okay. That's my favorite word. I even have that in her in the book.
Sure.
I'm like, my favorite word for the last year or so, 2 years, has been okay. And really, it truly is okay, because to get upset, to get offended, to feel negatively, why? That is a heck of a lot of energy that really I don't have, and not that type of energy that I want to harbor or store in my spirit.
And I think the key word that Rashima said is resolve. A lot of Bermudian authors, they want to tell their story, but sometimes they haven't finished living it, if that makes sense.
yes.
And so I've had experiences where people have come, I want to write my book, and they get stuck. And so that's when I developed, there's a package I offer called clinical author coaching. I'm a mental health, clinical mental health therapist. As that's my degree.
Yes.
And I've had to use my therapeutic skills to move authors through their story that they want to tell.
Sure.
So there is a level of resolve. If you say you're telling your story, I've also had authors tell their story. For people who can't see me, I have air quotes going on, and it's not even true. It's not possible. You have to if you're ready, if you're going to tell your story, tell your story. And that means you have to come to terms with stuff. You may have to work through pieces.
Yeah, I could imagine. Right. right.
Come high or high water, like Rashima said. If you're going to tell your story, tell your story. But you may have to work through some pieces and look in the mirror and really evaluate and reflect and do some work before you can really write the real book. You can write a book, but is it the real book?
And that's when you sometimes delve into unresolved issues and things. And sometimes, I said earlier, you may look up something that you're not aware of.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
been lying dormant for a while, So especially when it comes to personal trauma. One question actually came up is, question went somewhere. Where's the question? When you're writing the book, right, it's a question of a sense of fear or empowerment. Which emotion did you have to push through most in writing the book about you?
Probably a bit of both, if I could say. Because fear of the unknown, a little bit of fear of what persons might say. A teeny bit. I'm not going to say that didn't come across. But I think once I got through that, then the empowerment piece. And I'm like, listen, why am I doing this? Like Letitia said, what is your why? Why are you doing this? And I'm like, I'm doing this because it's, therapeutic, because it was therapeutic. Not being at work and being able to really find out who Rashima is.
How long were you not at work, by the way?
At that time, it was 5 months.
Whoa, okay.
And it was a time in my life where I was tired. I was tired, but still working, tired. I thought that I was going to actually maybe take a sabbatical to do some study leave because I did want to do some coursework. That was denied, and then I still was tired. So Okay, that's one door that closed. And then I actually went to the doctor.
Okay, gotcha.
I just went to the doctor. I'm like, I'm tired. And then she was like, oh my God, your cortisol levels are high. You know, you're a walking stroke.
Okay.
And I was like, really? And that really frightened me because she's like, yes, you know, kudos to Dr. Aisha Peets Tolbert. I know of her at the Barclay Institute, and I actually taught there. And she was like, Swan, you know, hey. And until someone else sometimes points something out to you, because I probably could have been still going on like that, but she pointed out that that was an unhealthy state of being that I was in.
Okay.
And so she was like, right now is your last minute on the job.
Okay.
Literally. And I was like, well, hold on. Let me go back. Let me go back home. Let me go back to school. Let me finish my last email. You know, daughter, she goes, I don't think you're understanding what I'm saying. She goes, okay, this is what I'll do. Go back, but I'm writing a doctor's note for right now. And she actually wanted to give me the year off.
Okay, fair enough.
And I was like, really? And she's like, hi, I don't think you're understanding. So again, the point that I was at, so my why was really a profound why. So it was therapeutic also in lots of ways, because in finding myself in resting as per the doctor's orders, you know, doing some other things, just not working. That's it. She's like, I don't want you to work at all.
Okay.
And that was like detox.
Wow.
But it was a detox that I needed. It was detox. I said, I don't know what it feels to be like on drugs, because I don't. However, if I can liken that to being on drugs, I can only imagine it made me a little bit now more empathetic of persons who are trying to detox.
Understood.
And so that's where the whole why came about, and then the empowerment. So there was some fear, I would say, in the beginning. But once I pushed through that and just being, it is well with my soul.
Okay.
Being in that state, then it was like, well, hey, you know, I do have something to share. I do have something that can be of benefit to others. And when you talk to so many women, they're like, oh, I thought it was just me.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm like, you did? And I'm like, I thought it was just me. And until we actually start talking about our me stories, and I mean, and I understand, because there is that level of privacy, confidentiality. You don't want people to think that, oh, you don't have it all together. And really, you don't.
Okay.
But until it's a safe space to share. And I'll be like, listen, it's not just you. You know, I went through this too, or this, that, and the other. And I think that's where then it was onward and upward, empowerment 2.0, and really just no looking back.
Got you. So two things I'm going to do. Time is actually, far spent. It's a good thing, though. We have both Letitia Washington and Rashima Swan as our guests this evening on Insight. So now it's almost Christmas time, right? How do people get this book, get their hands on the book? What's it about? It's nice and short. In my mind, rather, it's a good read because it's short. It's easy to read, right? There's also a workbook. You haven't talked about the workbook that goes with the book.
Well, I have a journal. It comes with a journal, yes. And because, of course, it was the whole journey of journaling, more or less. I would say it wasn't really journaling, but it was. And but it started from a point of jotting down my thoughts. And so once I finished the book, and I said, well, well, maybe I should have a journal. And this was just playing around online. And like, you start typing in the right prompt, you get the right online platform, and then I was like, let me upload the actual cover of the book, whatnot, and just like that, I'm like, oh gee, let's do a couple of test runs in different colors. And again, I'm not really a creative person. I'm not. You know, my sister Razia, she's the artist. I am not an artist at all. I can write. And so that also was I would say, a challenge, something new. Something new for me to actually create something picturesque. And so that was actually another little project. And so I do have some copies I've actually seen. When I look at the piece as it is, and it's an opportunity, because I look at it as something that's evolving. It's a piece of artwork and it's evolving. And so there are, you know, I spotted a couple of tweaks that, you know what, that I am looking at making. I've contacted Letitia, and so I'm looking to actually have a future edition of the book. Yes, but again, at the heart, of course, of the book, is the message definitely of empowerment. Not taking away from that, but again, it's a part of the evolving journey and still a part of grace, power, and the art of becoming. And so I have 15 copies in my possession, and so again there's going to be
counted as 10 by the way, but take it 5.
Yes, a future
you heard what I said about it.
I did, and
Okay.
thank you.
Gotcha.
And thank you, much appreciated. And then I have also 15 journals.
Okay.
And so persons can contact me at Black Pearls BDA.
Oh, wow.
Black Pearls.
Okay.
Hi. Black Pearls BDA at
Yeah.
gmail.com. That's the email. And also, that's also the Instagram handle as well. Black Pearls BDA. Just keeping it very simple and very much the topic or the title of the book, so that it's very easy to remember. And we can go from there.
Okay.
And it's definitely been. I've enjoyed the journey. I really have.
What's been the overall reception?
Good. It's been very positive.
Okay.
The feedback has been very positive, and like I said, people see things, or they're like, hey, I thought it was well put.
Yeah.
I've had male readers. They're like, why did you do one for a man? So when listening to you, Letitia, like, I haven't had a male. I actually had my male friends like, what, this is really good. Like, although your target audience is women, it's not just a woman thing. Men have to balance.
Yes.
The one
Okay.
about where it was the home. But I said, your home, I always say your home is sacred.
It's got to be, yeah.
Your home is
Yeah.
sacred.
Quiet,
And so
peaceful,
that's
yes.
why for me, the whole peace part, we can't be
Yeah.
then it's not peaceful.
Got you.
When something is sacred, whether you want your place of worship or what have you, a place that you find to be sacred is a place that is peaceful.
Yeah, safe and serene, yeah.
And so that's where that chapter came from. And
Okay.
so when we look at it, it's just basic words. And I mean, the format of it, I don't know. I was just like, okay, a ladder of the alphabet.
Have you got it? It's A, B, C, D. You got that?
And then,
Yep.
yes, from A to Z. I started
And
with
then
that,
repeats
and then
again.
no, but then it evolves. A,
Okay.
E, I, O, U,
Yes.
and sometimes Y.
Yes.
Don't ask me where that came from, but it just came.
Got you.
And
Okay.
so that's why I found the word, each letter of the alphabet. And then when it comes to the beginnings, those kinds of things, then I said, okay, well, I've already done the 26 letters of the alphabet. And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to focus on the vowels.
Okay.
And so it's a word, A, E, I, O, U, and a Y.
Okay.
And so that has been encouraging, for men to be like, you know what, I got a lot from this. And I've had men actually buy books for not just themselves,
Yes,
but
yes,
also for their
yes,
women friends. But they're like, you know what, geez, have you ever thought of doing something? I said, well, right now, this is just, as you say, my coming out,
Yeah.
so to speak, and kind of delving back into my craft. And I guess, reigniting. I would
Okay.
say reigniting, rekindling something that I know that I love to do, but very seldom have the time. And like Letitia said, if you're going to do it, you have to invest.
Yes.
Meaning, okay, invest in money, but also invest in your time. It takes time to write.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You don't just sit there and it's just like, and it's not even about, you can go on AI, but then you can't copyright it.
Right.
You can't copyright the material. And I'm just saying that because people can be like, oh, I went on Designer, but you can't copyright that content.
Okay.
So if you're looking to have content that you want copywritten, then that comes from you. Majority of it has to be human
Yes.
developed. And so therefore, there are a lot of people out there that definitely have stories, but then when it comes to actually putting it to paper and all of that, then, we go from there. So the feedback definitely, my girlfriend that was on 2 flights last night, another cousin of yours, she was like, the content, and she talked about, how it was put together.
Yeah,
And
easy
again,
read, yeah.
that's what I want. You don't have to be an educator. You don't have to be a school teacher for something to flow or for something to resonate with you. And that's how I wanted the end product to be, that anybody could pick it up and actually have a good read, and actually be able to give me feedback.
Okay, so the question at the end is going to be this. I haven't read the book, haven't seen the book, I don't know nothing about the book. What's the hook?
What's the hook?
Yeah.
Daring to be you. That's my thing, like, and having the courage to be you.
Okay.
The courage to be you. You know, where the title came from, even Black Pearls, that just came into my spirit. And then I didn't want it to just stand at Black Pearls. I was like, you know, it's like Black Pearls was just not enough. And then I thought about just my journey, you know, my spiritual journey, my growth, you know, and I was like, okay, grace, power, like all the things that I think the Father has given to me. You know, I'm not perfect. You know, I strive to be better today than I was yesterday.
Right.
But, you know, we all fall short. And so with that, I'm like, you know, grace, power, and the art of becoming, because that's what this has been, you know, the art of becoming, like, who am I? You know, in this body, you know, who am I really? And funny enough, because it wasn't until then I shared it with my mom, and when we had the celebration, and, you know, she was like, Bria, how did you know that? And I'm like, what you talking about, Mama? And she was like, you know, when she was a member, as you interviewed my daddy, of the Black Berets, that was her name. They called her Black Pearl.
Wow.
And I was like, really?
Nice.
No, that's
Nice
not,
touch.
that's something that I learned just the other day.
Nice.
My mother had never shared that. And so again, I just figured, you know what? This is what it was meant to be. You know, this title was meant to be
for sure.
this title, because who would have thunk it? And then at one of my my school board members, Miss Kristen, Kristen, I love, Kristen's listening.
Yes.
Kristen came and she's like, oh my gracious, she wore a black pearl. She's like, I don't know what made me put on this piece of jewelry. She goes, I just knew that my neck was bare, and I put this on. And so again, that was another connector.
Yes.
And so sometimes, you know, even when you do things, not that you're looking for a sign to be like, was this it?
Yes, I got you.
But you know what? Once it was out there and it was launched, so many connectors that I never even would have dreamed. And I'm like, you know what? This is this was definitely meant to be the title. This was definitely meant to be. So I would definitely say the hook is, you know, listen, you're looking for life change and the courage to, and the, you know, and the tenacity, you know, to dare to be who you are and really delve deep.
Yes. Okay.
And there's a little alliteration there, but to really delve deep, then this will be a good read, because you cannot do those things and be those things without looking in the mirror and having to acknowledge your shortfalls, your limitations, as well as your strengths. You know, we definitely bask in the glow of those things that we're good at.
Yes.
And yeah, but also, what are the lowlights?
Yes. Okay.
And what have we learned? And to use those experiences as stepping stones, because it makes no sense wallowing.
Okay.
You know, and yes, bad things happen to good people. That was one of the things too. Like some people are like, no, why me? I don't know. And we say, you know, why not you? And I think that's one of the things that, again, I had to come to resolve. You know, some things just happen. And from a Christian standpoint, you know, trusting in God, like, you know what, okay, God, you're allowing these things to happen, or you've allowed this situation to happen. Help me to find the why. Help me to find the what that I'm supposed to get out of this, and help me, Jesus, with the how to get through. And not everybody does have a spiritual connection, whether it be Christianity or any other type of religious affiliation. I was sharing with my son, we just even talking today about how the importance of believing in something greater than you.
Yes, for sure.
And how important that is, and how that resonates. Not saying it has to be this, it has to be that, but just having a belief system in something that is greater than you.
And so now what's interesting, right, is that one of my guests tonight, they came and they were adamant that they're going to be for 1 hour. They're going to be for 1 hour. I'm not sure why they said it, but they're going to be 1 hour and that's it. And guess what? 2 hours are going by now. They're chuckling across from me. So my question is, what do you want to leave with the audience from your experience as an author, as a mother, and working at Mirrors? You've said lots of things, by the way, that I think are very powerful from the Mirrors perspective. But what would you like to leave with the audience?
Legacy. That when you pass on, your legacy it lasts. And if you have a story to tell, I'm speaking also if there are any older persons listening,
Yes.
If you have a story to tell, please tell it. Because when you leave, your story will go with you.
Okay.
And so it's important for us to put our stories into paper form, a format that can be consumed for younger generations. We talked about generational differences and stuff. Younger generations need to know what their forefathers went through, what their mothers and fathers went through, and how they succeeded and how they survived and how they overcame. If you have a story, tell it.
Wow.
But tell it properly.
Okay.
So, cold word world.
Okay. Fine. Okay.
But you know what I mean? Seriously. If you have a story, don't be afraid to tell it. Be prepared to do the work.
Yes.
To tell it properly. But legacy. So yes, I would. This is my.
And so, this brings me to this point, right, which is not planned, that's for sure, but is that I have been so impressed, to be honest, by what's been shared, that I'm going to take 5 of your books, and we'll figure out a way how to give it to the listening audience, by the way. And for you would be to be able to, if there is a writer that comes to you and says they can't afford it, that Insight will pay a portion of the cost of publishing it.
Awesome.
Because you said one portion is the editing, for example.
Yes.
So we'll find a way whereby, and you have to do this, by the way, call me or contact me, right? And let them know we'll underwrite a portion of that in terms of, like you said, legacy is so important. And there are many older people that are dying, right?
Yes.
Without the story being told. And these stories are so powerful.
Yes.
They didn't just appear, they did different things. And so it's that strength, it's that legacy that we need to be able to do. And again, as for Rishima, the inspiration was that seeing somebody I know closely do it in such a good way. I mean, like, it's amazing in terms of it's easy to read. Each chapter is like about 2 pages, for example, right? So it's easy to read, and it does have an impact. And I'm not a female, of course, but to see the value in what you've done. And so I would encourage you to keep on keeping on.
I thank you. And
look
I
forward to the
actually
next
have one other thing,
Sure.
if you'll permit, that I definitely wanted to share with the audience. And it kind of dovetails into what you've already asked, but, I had here, Black Pearls is more than a book. It's an invitation.
Okay.
An invitation to embrace grace, to step into your power, and to become boldly who you are meant to be.
Okay.
And my hope is that, everyone who reads, every reader, finds that pearl of wisdom, because that's the whole thing, the Black Pearls, finding that pearl of wisdom that speaks to their journey, because not everyone's journey is the same. So I say thank you to you for allowing me to be on here this evening and to share in that vision. And I look forward to hearing how Black Pearls continues to inspire you. Like you said, you've had a read, but I mean, now when you read, you then go back and you have a reread. Because that's the thing. Some people I had a read. Then some people okay, I'm doing a chapter a day. I'm doing it as a sort of a daily devotional, that kind of thing. And even to go back, because again, the objective is that it's a piece that's timeless. Like at the end of the day, from children, from life to balance, to him, to peace, to money, to that, those things are not going to grow old and grow mildew and die off. They're everyday things. And also with the book, after the chapter, of course, where it has, just next steps.
Yes.
Because again, it's more than just, telling the vignette, having a powerful closing. But then, what's next?
Yes. Okay.
What's next? Because again, it's a call to action.
Okay.
So what are you going to do next? So if you know that, all right, maybe you need a little bit more peace. Maybe you have to, show a little bit more gratitude. And you may need some little seeds. Okay. Well, this is then something that you may look to do in planting that seed so that you then can blossom into the person that you wish that you're meant to be.
Okay. I just think this is brilliant, by the way. So thanks again to both of you for coming, to making the time. And so next week, I'm going to have one more show before Christmas to have a break. And I'll say again to the listening audience that on Thursday, I'm going to do this on Thursday now, starting at 9 a.m. on Thursday to 8 a.m. on Friday, I'll have my turkey marathon. Call 538-8683. First person to call me close to the hour, not before, got to be afterwards, and then I'll get a turkey for you. So it'll be 24 turkeys given out on that basis, sponsored by myself, Insight, and Cedar Aviation, to because it's a necessary part of what you do, and it's a fun thing to do. And if you call and I don't answer the phone, it's because you're not the first person. So I have the ringer's going to be on. First person, ringer goes off. That's it. So I'll have fun. But for this week, I want everyone again to make a decision, right? To do something for somebody else that makes them smile. That's how you get over. And during this Christmas season, I want everybody to think about somebody who you know or maybe not know that's primarily a senior person, right? That's living alone, no real contact, and do something for them. That's what I want us to do this season. Let's make sure that we give and not necessarily give things, but give of ourselves. That'll make a difference and it'll get us to a better place. And to go back to where I started off is let us be more responsible in terms of how we operate our vehicles, bikes, cars, trucks, whatever. Slow down. Stop drinking while you're under the driving under the influence, and let's be much more sensible to prevent any undue collisions. On the note, Bermuda, thanks again for joining us here on Magic 102.7 on your Sunday evening for another edition of Insight. Until next week, when I introduce and interview my daughter, Jordan Linnea Richardson, and her friend, Miss Delia Eben. So again, Bermuda, thank you, and thank you to both of you.
Live on YouTube. Subscribe now.